At the end of the day, all of us were at the shop before anybody could have said like, well, I'm going to head home. See you later. I was like, hey, you probably been wondering why I've been like, probably noticed that I'm like so distracted lately at work. And they're like, well, yeah, um, you got a pregnant wife at home who's high risk, had to go see this specialist and that specialist, plus, an almost 2-year-old at home, whatnot, getting ready for the baby. And I'm like, yeah. And Katie and I have decided that we're gonna rent our house and move next year. This is the Farm Hop Life podcast. I'm Matt DeRozier. So I don't have Katie with me today. She is already in bed, and I am trying live streaming to YouTube, Twitter, and Float all at the same time. We'll see how that goes. By the title, you can probably tell what I'm talking about. I quit my job. Almost. So let me back up a little bit. I like this was something that we really wanted to do. Like, if this is something we're definitely going to do, I gotta let work know, because multiple reasons I'm going to get into later. But first person I had to talk to about it was Katie. She needed a lot of convincing. Obviously, it's a big deal. So, sorry. So she was nervous. I mean, it is a big deal. Hey, you've had this job for 5 years now and you're just gonna leave. Yeah, I am. But so it wasn't just like, hey, give notice, whatever. She needed a little bit of a backup plan. And so I talked to somebody, like another contractor here, and I was like, hey, like, you don't think, because one of her concerns is like, well, why would they, if you're just gonna quit, like what, okay, how much notice would you give them? A year. I preferred like longer, like 18 months, but I'll give them a year and see how that goes. And she goes, well, why would they keep you on if you're just going to quit? I'm like, well, I'm kind of in a power position a little bit, because I am employee number 3. There's only 3 of us. And so the dad's the owner of the electrical contractor company. The son's my supervisor, and then I'm the apprentice. So for them to just lose, 33% of their, like, to just fire 33% of their employees, probably not very smart. And it's not like I wanted to take advantage of them anyways. But anyways, I didn't feel like they would have fired me. But she wasn't so convinced. One of the reasons probably because she never had bosses like I do, like that actually, personally care. I mean, like, after a year, I think after working them for them a year, I had emergency surgery, and they came and visited me in the hospital, which is kind of cool. And then, like, my supervisor, his daughter has been battling leukemia. She's been clear for some years now, but we had gone and visited her in the children's hospital in Spokane. So, like, it's personal, and it's what made it hard. Made it hard that it's personal. So I talked to a general contractor around here who was the one that actually built my house. And I was like, hey, you don't think they'd like fire me, would you? He goes, no, I doubt it. I just don't see them doing that. Because he's worked with them quite a bit, known them for many, many years. And so I'm like, okay, well, let's say they did. Like, would you hire me? And he's like, yeah, I've seen the work that you do. Like, you do good work, and I know what you're capable of. So yeah, I'd hire you. I'm like, all right, sweet. So I go back and tell Katie, hey, like this guy said he'd hire me if need be. She's like, okay. Then she gave it like a couple more days. She says, all right, you can tell him. And so 2 weeks ago, what day would that have been? I don't know. It was on a Friday. I like driving to work that day. I kind of felt like this was going to be the day. This is going to be the day that I tell him. Because it had just been like bottled up inside for so long, right? And so at the end of the day, all of us were at the shop, and we were just kind of like BSing just a little bit, like not like, I don't know, it's just kind of light BSing. You guys know what I'm talking about. And so before anybody could have said like, well, I'm gonna head home, see you later, I was like, hey, you probably been wondering why I've been like, probably noticed that I'm like so distracted lately at work. And they're like, well, yeah, you got you got a pregnant wife at home who's high risk, had to go see this specialist and that specialist, plus, an almost 2-year-old at home, whatnot, getting ready for the baby. And I'm like, yeah. And Katie and I have decided that we're gonna rent our house and move next year. And the owner took a couple steps back and sat on like the tongue of a trailer, and we talked about it for probably like an hour. They weren't mad. They were a little surprised. Well, I'd say very surprised. But they were actually pretty supportive. Yeah, they were bummed, but pretty supportive. And one of them actually said, like, I'm actually pretty jealous that you're gonna try to go do this. Like, put the house up like to rent or Airbnb and just go travel. And like, what are you gonna do for work? We'll just find odd jobs. Like, I'm doing like slow release of information. I'm gonna be like, hey, by the way, I started a YouTube channel and I'm on Twitter and blah blah. Oh, by the way, I'm doing remote interviews every week and all these things. Like, I'm just gonna find some odd jobs. I'm gonna pick up some work here and there, make ends meet. Rent around here's crazy. Airbnb prices is pretty crazy. I should work, and if it only lasts a year, it's a hell of a year. So, and so I gave him 12 months notice for quite a few reasons. The owner, he's in his late 60s now, is looking to retire, but I don't really think he's going to retire. He likes it. He still likes it too much. He just wants to like do less than he's doing now. So there's that. He needs a plan for that. We have 3 newer work trucks and 1 older work truck. And so they were like humming and hawing. Do we keep the old one as like a parts runner? Do we hire a new guy and give him that one? Which leads to, do we hire a new guy? And so they've been humming and hawing about hiring somebody else for the longest time. Just like one week, it seems like, or we need to hire somebody because we're slammed with work. Next week, okay, we're not going to hire anybody now because I just don't want to deal with the headache. And then the following week, like, I wish we could have some help. This is we're just buried here. And so for the last couple of months, been kind of trying to push them like to make the decision on their own. Like, will you just hire somebody because it'll make it easier on me to be able to give you this bad news. And so I unfortunately kind of had to force their hand to make the decision to hire somebody. And so finding the right person isn't easy either. That's why I wanted to go in 12 months. When I was leaving Minnesota, I gave my boss 3 months notice, and it took them like 2 months to find somebody to hire, and they fired him before I left. So, and the other guy that didn't do the hiring, he's like, we had to like hire like 5 people before we found you. And I was at that job for like a year and a half, almost 2 years, I think. And so what's kind of funny is when I told that job, hey, I'm quitting and moving to Montana, they also said, hey, I'm actually pretty jealous because they go like skiing in Utah and snowmobiling in Utah and stuff every year. And so I don't know, it was just kind of interesting. Like, hey, I'm leaving this job to go do this thing. Oh, I'm jealous. Hey, I'm quitting this job to go do this thing. Oh, I'm jealous of that. And so I don't know, just go do stuff. I guess if you're watching this and just like, I mean, don't just quit. Have a plan. Unless you can afford to, then good for you. Just go do it. Whatever. So the following week after I quit, it was weird. Obviously, it was weird. It's like it'd be like having like your girlfriend tell you like, "Hey, I want to break up next year." Like after being like a 5-year relationship, that'd be pretty awkward. And so it was a weird tone. The owner, I was working with him a little bit off and on the following week, and he's like, man, I gotta tell you, like at the end of the day, Monday, so like the first day after the weekend of telling him, I gotta tell you, really didn't get that much sleep last night or over the weekend, because I just don't know what we could have done to like, what we could do to like keep you around. Cause like on the spot, when I told them, he's like, well, if it's travel that you want to do, like, would you want to like do 2 weeks on, 2 weeks off, 6 months on, 6 months off? Just, take all the time you want to like travel and whatnot. And I was like, that's pretty tempting. It's pretty tempting, but it still would like, I didn't tell him this, but in my mind right away, I'm saying like, it'd still lock me in here, like a place that I have to be at, a job that I have to be at. And this opportunity would just be a lot of freedom. So, and I was like, I can, he said he was little disappointed. And I was like, I can understand the disappointment. I can understand that for sure. We've had a lot of deep conversations over the years about this, that, and other like tons of stuff. Which is kind of weird. I don't know. Maybe it isn't for having deep conversations with your boss. So like this isn't like something surprising that we would talk about. But I was like, yeah, I can understand the disappointment because for him to put in the time and the energy and the money to train an apprentice, which is supposed to take 4 years. I'm on year 5 now. Expecting him to be a journeyman at the end of the 4 years. And, and now that's not going to happen. And when I first started this job, I was like, all right, electrician, whatever, all could be interesting. I'll give it a shot. This is by far the longest job I've ever had. By far. It was like everything was new. everything was like, whoa, I want to learn about this, I want to learn about that. And I was like, oh, I'm gonna get my journeyman's, I'm gonna get my master's, I'm gonna buy into being a part of the company and everything. And after about like year 4, I was like, still hadn't finished my book work. It's like 14 books and then a ton of pre-test questions. But I had gone to school for electronics. Didn't graduate, don't tell anybody. But I had 9 credits left, and I couldn't get past this math class. It was just kicking my ass, and so I took it 3 times, and I'm like, I'm done. This is stupid. I don't need this stupid piece of paper. But I did pass all the like core classes, So those credits transferred, and I got exempt from having to do a bunch of book work. I still haven't done it. Just that book work, not my thing. Well, I'm sure a lot of you can relate. So I just now, like the last time I picked up, like tried to do homework was like 6 months ago, I think, and it's just been kicking my ass. It's the section, if you know anything about this crap, it's the pretest questions where you have to give the answer, write it in, and then the section of the code book that you found it in. And so it just takes so long to get anywhere. And there's like 500 or 600 of these questions before you can even take the journeyman's exam. And so it's just been like super uninteresting for me. Just kind of like, oh, why bother for this dumb thing? And then, this thing right here started kind of picking up a little bit. There's been like positive interest and whatnot. So I'm like, hey, why would I keep doing this why do I keep pursuing an electrical like journeyman's license if this is what I want to do, right? And so when I gave them like my notice, they were like, oh, I strongly suggest you keep pursuing that journeyman's exam so you can get reciprocity in like other states and do work that way. And then if you ever come back, we'd take you back on as a journeyman. I'm like, yeah, that does sound kind of nice, like that safety net. But then I'm also thinking, when am I going to have time to do that? I worked all this weekend, like doing little crap around the house to get it ready. I mean, it's going to be like that for the next 50 weeks, at least the next 50 weekends, and then probably lose 40 of those weekends to having, a baby in 11 weeks now. So, and even though I didn't like graduate college or whatever, it still served me well not having that stupid piece of paper. So like, I have electrical knowledge. Does that stupid piece of paper make it like, so I either know or not know what I'm doing? Haven't burned any houses down yet. So excuse me a second. So that's really the majority of it. On Monday, he did ask me to write up a formal letter of resignation just for business purposes. And so I'm like, okay, yeah, I can do that. I thought that might be something they'd want to ask me. And so I didn't know how to I just basically got copied and pasted a letter of resignation because never had to do one before. But I did put in like a little personal note in there, like appreciate everything. It has been like, this is like super difficult. Like we're like a family for for like, having been there in hospitals on both sides, right? And so on I was working with my supervisor late Friday afternoon, and I was like, "Hey, so I got a awkward question." He's like, "Yeah." I'm like, have you guys? I mean, because it's been 2 weeks already, right? Have you guys looked into hiring anybody yet, or what's going on there? And he goes, we were hoping that this one guy that currently works for somebody else, would be interested, but we haven't heard anything. And so, what I told them a couple months ago is, somebody that they're looking for is like they're trying to like uh, thread a needle from like 100 miles away. They need to vastly like open up like who they're looking for, because they're like almost like whispering what I told them. I was like, you're like, hey, by the way, we're hiring. So if you know anybody that is interested, we're looking for blah blah blah. Like all these like specific like credentials, and like you got to broaden that net. Otherwise, you're never going to find anybody. But that was, and they brought that up on Friday. But anyways, so the other thing they're worried about is hey, are we going to have, if we're going to go through a recession or a lull in building, because obviously building's been crazy right now. And so I asked them, I was kind of playing devil's advocate a little bit with them. I'm like, I thought you guys said, during like 2008, 2009, it slowed down in Montana, but it didn't quite come to a screeching halt. And he's like, we had this, subcontractor or whatever that we didn't have enough work for, so we couldn't keep him on. But yeah, we the two of us were busy. I was like, all right. So like, have you noticed all the people buying up houses in our area? He's like, yeah, there was he goes, I saw a Maserati driving through downtown. When I say downtown, the city is like 2,500 people, right? That we all live in. All three of us live in the same city. Township. And he's like, so this Maserati, like, do they know that cows like still, shit down Main Street, every now and then when we've got like when such and such ranchers got to do a cattle drive? And I'm like, yeah, there's been a lot of like high priced vehicles driving around lately. So high priced vehicles, high priced homeowners, like I feel like we're this time around, if there is going to be some sort of crash, there's going to be a lot of insulation here just because of all the money that's came in recently. And so you shouldn't, like, obviously it's a concern, but I wouldn't worry too much about not finding work for another person. And he's like, yeah, you're probably right. But who knows? What they feel like they want to do going forward. So anyways, that is wrapping up. That is how I put in my 12-month notice. It was weird. It felt weird. The previous 6 months, like leading up to this point, it was weird. But it kind of, like I told them, I was like, I kind of felt like I wanted to throw up this whole, like on the drive from like where we were working to the shop. When I told them, kind of wanted to puke that whole time, but had to tell them sometime, right? And so I am working with them till at least April 1st, 2023. After that, if they don't have enough work for everybody, I'm the first one gone. So that part was a little scary, but I'll get over it. So this is kind of like my statement. Katie and I are serious about doing this. Like, you don't just go quit your job of 5 years to like try to prove a point. Not trying to prove a point, because we're actually just doing this, like whether this makes a difference or not. But anyways, so thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. If you like this, share it, comment, subscribe, all that crap. You could go to farmhoplife.com, sign up for our newsletter, let you know when new episodes drop, new little clips drop. You can email me, Matt at farmhoplife.com. And we'll talk to you next time. Hopefully Katie will be here, because we're going to be talking about children, our children. So thanks. See you next time.